the viewers, and welcome back to another episode of Cybersecurity Weekly. Well, today's episode is a bit special, and because we have a special guest over here tonight, we have Sina Davanian. Sina Davanian is a PhD scholar at University of California. He's a cybersecurity expert who has also worked across the world. He has also worked as malware intelligence researcher. So welcome to the show, Sina. And to break the ice for our new audiences, could you please tell our audiences a bit about yourself?
Thank you for your introduction, Mr. Gupta. Hello, and hello to your audience. So as you said, I'm doing my PhD here in California, University of California, Riverside. I got into security, I guess, after I started my master's degree in Europe in computer science, security, and privacy. Before that, I was always interested in security, doing work here and there. Was really interested in the concept of hacking, but it was, I guess, after my master's that it got really serious. And I think since a few years ago, whatever I did was kind of related to computer security.
Very well. So that's bringing you up as a security researcher, something that the world desperately needs. Wonderful.
Right.
Yeah, great to have you here, Sina. Guys, in today's episode, we will talk about the virtual private networks. There has been a lot of requests from the listeners of our podcast, and they want us to talk about VPNs. They want to understand the value that VPNs are protecting. Are they actually protecting our privacy or not? Unfortunately, today, as we see, VPNs more appear like glorified proxy services. VPNs are basically offered by multiple vendors for free or for very low cost these days. What would you say about it, Sina? Do you think they are worth it? Is it worth to buy cheap VPN services for using them on our cell phones or laptops? What do you think?
I think to answer this question properly, we should probably refer to the history of VPNs and how they became popular. So if you look at the technology itself and how it started, it was basically in order to connect employees who wanted to basically join a company network, right? That was the motivation the first days that VPN was introduced. So the motivation was that I have a network, it's connected to the internet, but I don't have currently access to the network because I'm not physically located in the network. And the technology actually helped people to achieve this goal. I'm in a different location, but I still want to be in the network or kind of give the feel that I'm in the network. In doing so, using VPN connection allows you to basically simulate being in the physical network. What happens in practice is that the network packets that you have would be kind of encapsulated in another network packet. And so the traffic goes from your physical location to the network that is actually the virtual private network that you would have. In the case that I mentioned, it would be probably your company network. And from there, the original network packet that you would have had would be redirected to your destination. Now, I'm saying this because this traditional use case has changed, and the new actually surge in the demand for VPNs started kind of from 2005. And that's about the time that many countries started to basically censor the network traffics. And the access to the internet was kind of limited to a certain domains and websites that governments would decide for their citizens. And then VPN became basically, as you mentioned, a proxy for bypassing these limitations. And now when you look at this new use case, you would see that, okay, VPN was not built for this, right? as I explained, the only thing that happen when you use VPN is that your original traffic would be hidden in another type of traffic that is basically a flow from your source, which is the place that you're located, to the destination. That would be the basically VPN server. And since this is what's happening, the governments or the censorship or whatever that wants to take a look at your traffic only sees a VPN traffic between you and your VPN server, and then cannot look inside and then cannot basically filter out your traffic. And to answer your question, yes. So these days we use VPN as proxy servers in order to hide the original traffic.
There is a large number of audience who have this question that the new use case of VPNs, as you mentioned, has changed from our history, or the real use case, or the use case for which the VPNs were made for. These days, people want to watch videos or want to have access to websites, which, let's say, are not accessible in particular regional locations, right? Right. So what they do is they try to use VPNs to access these kind of episodes on their televisions, which are available on some other network. And they have these free services or very cheap services to use as VPN proxies. Can these VPN service providers have a malicious intent as well?
That's a very good question. So there are a few things that can go wrong. The first one is that when you're trying to use a VPN server and hide your traffic, what if the VPN server or the VPN connection that you're trying to make is not secure itself? And by that, I mean that those connections, those VPN servers and the implementations can be vulnerable, right? If that's the case, then for instance, if you're trying to hide or bypass filtering, then basically the actor who wants to observe your traffic, the one that you're trying to hide from, can basically take advantage of this and basically find your traffic, your real traffic. So the first problem is that the VPN server itself would be vulnerable. I know that some of your audiences are professional, so they may wonder, how can this happen? One of the very few, one of the very simple things that you can basically achieve this is by basically trying to introduce an error in the connection. So let's say that the VPN connection tries to start, and then as the ISP or basically the state actor who can basically make the connection happen. You know that if you want to connect to internet, you need an
the
ISP,
service providers,
right?
yeah.
And then that's where, the service provider is probably the one who filters your traffic. So they can actually introduce fault in your connection. And when then they introduce fault, what happens is that the reaction of the VPN connection could be anything, right? If the VPN connection, as we say, has vulnerabilities, instead of trying to basically terminate the connection, it tries to basically send the traffic without using the VPN tunnel. And doing so, your original intent would be revealed, right? So this is one of the very basic things that can go wrong, and your basically VPN connection can reveal your identity or your traffic. The other problems actually could be, as you mentioned, can come from the VPN provider itself, right? So if you go to the website of most of these VPN providers, there are two things that are missing. The first one is a kind of privacy statement, right? They need to have a privacy statement, right? And by that, I mean, what do they do with your traffic? Are they selling your traffic? Because they are the ones who own your traffic, your original traffic that you were trying to hide, right? are they logging your traffic? Because if they are logging your traffic, the traffic is sitting somewhere, right? And this can cause many problems. What happens if somebody asks them for your traffic, right? As I said, what if they are trying to sell your traffic? And if they have a privacy statement and they clearly state that they don't do this, then okay, there could be consequences if they try to do it. So that's the first thing that can go wrong, selling your traffic. And the other thing is basically, as you said, the VPN server itself being malicious. What if this is basically the actor that you're trying to hide from, right? If they are themselves the
VPN
actor
servers becoming the
that you're
honeypots in the
trying to
network.
hide, yes, is the actually the actor that you're trying to hide from, then you're accessing the destination, or you're basically achieving the goal that you had, that was making a connection with your target. But at the same time, they are exactly seeing that you're doing this. So these are all kinds of things that can go wrong.
There we go, guys. That's a very interesting point made. Like, if you want to hide yourself from a given government body, are you sure that your VPN is not actually the honeypot that you're connecting to? If you have an opinion that you're saving yourself from somebody else looking in your Bitcoin transactions or PaySafe card transactions, you have to be for sure that your VPN service is actually your private network and not somebody else's private network who you are sending logs to. A very interesting point. So do you think there is a way that a common user can ensure to test his VPN is actually legitimate?
I'd say for depends on the user, right? If it is a sophisticated user, a security expert, yes, there are means that you can achieve this given how much time you want to basically put on this, right? If you have enough time to do some investigations, basically you can check a few things and see if they are actually what they are claiming to be. So for instance, one of the things that we observed as security researchers is that some of these VPN providers claim that they are, for instance, located in, let's say, Germany, right? So the first thing that you can check is to see whether they are actually located in the Germany. And this is just a basic inquiry about their IP address and how your traffic travels from the source to the destination. If you're more subtle, you can basically have a destination that is in your control, your own server, and then you can try to make a connection from your location to that destination using that VPN connection. And then on the destination, you can observe the traffic that comes to you. And that actually reveals the actual IP address that tries to connect to that server. If this IP address is different than the IP address that you see from your end, then probably there are some inconsistencies that can be alerting. Other things are basically more sophisticated than this. And as I said, yes, as a security researcher, you can be creative and there are ways to reveal this. But as you know, many users do not want the burden of actually trying this. So this is really an open question. Is provider X really legit, or is provider X actually trying to provide me the service that it claims to? Nobody knows.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. I mean, it totally depends upon the capabilities of the researcher and how creative he can get to ensure the answer to this question. And it is not 100% completely known that even if you're paying $5 a month for the service or 50, that you are completely taken care of, or your identity is completely hidden.
Absolutely, yes. And to actually add more, there was a paper in, so one of the conferences that we have in security community, and they are basically devoted to these sorts of researches. Are Internet Measurement Conference. That's a very well-known venue for security researchers. And in 2018, there was a paper that is dedicated to basically this topic, VPN. And in their paper, they actually have a very interesting finding, and that is many of these VPN providers have some sort of affiliate programs, and then their affiliates try to advertise for them, claiming things that are not necessarily true. So if you're an average user and your basically first effort is to check with what other reviewers say about this VPN provider, you may not be actually well guided, because those reviews may come from the providers themselves.
Yeah, and that could be misleading. Very well. I would be happy to share the link of the research paper that you just mentioned in the comments for the readers if they are interested in. We have a question coming live from one of the listeners, as we see. The listener says, using SSL, TLS, and HTTPS for centralized services, or using end-to-end encryption in a way, seems to a short trustful network. What about using HTTPS or end-to-end services over VPN? Will they still be the same? So basically what we are saying is, you have your cell phone, you're using WhatsApp, which says that your connections are end-to-end protected. Very well. Now you use WhatsApp over VPN. So the data from your cell phone goes to Chinese VPN providers, and then from there, it goes back to the servers which are located in California. Now, does that mean your connection is still end-to-end protected, or there can be some tampering happening in between? How safe are you?
That's a very good question. So again, to answer this question, we need to take a deeper look in how actually in practice this would happen, right? When you have this SSL or HTTPS connection, what happens is that your client, or you as the basically client, try to encrypt the connection. Okay, very well. If you try to encrypt the connection, nobody in the middle is supposed to be able to see the content of your message, right? But your message still has other characteristics, right? For instance, your source address. And your source address or your IP address is basically the identity of you in the internet, as a node in the internet world. Or other characteristics, for instance, your destination. And the destination could be the website that you're trying to connect to. These are other characteristics that are outside the encrypted content, right? Now, when you're trying to basically hide your traffic using VPN, the destination server or whoever is in between wouldn't know about these characteristics that I mentioned other than the content, right? Because to them, your destination is the VPN server, and to the destination, the source is the VPN server. But do note that the VPN server sees these characteristics: the source IP address, the destination IP address, and a bunch of other characteristics. So these are the things that are not encrypted using the SSL and HTTPS. Yeah. And these are the things that still are observable. And this is really important in some cases, because if the actor that you're trying to hide your traffic from wants to know where you're connecting to, and the basically VPN server leaks away these information, that's what the actor only needs, right? Regarding the content of your message that is encrypted with the HTTPS or SSL, there are of course things that can go wrong. For instance, man-in-the-middle attacks. But that's not just a typical attack that without any side effects. So as a client, you probably would see some abnormal things, I would say, right? For instance, if you're trying to connect in your Chrome browser or Firefox browser, there might be an error indicating that the server that you're trying to connect to is not using a validated certificate. If you're if you're an expert, you know something about security or computer science, you probably know that something is wrong and you wouldn't initiate the connection. But if you're an average user, you might be desperate to basically connect, and then that's when you're actually connecting with an unsecured connection. So to summarize, there are two things here: the content of your message and the other characteristics apart from the content. The content can be hidden using HTTPS, even from the VPN server, but the characteristics like the source or destination cannot be hidden from the VPN server, even if you're using SSL or HTTPS.
Yeah, that's very well said. And so basically what it means is that your content of the HTTP packet is of course secure by the SSL encryption, but HTTP headers are of course open, which exposes the source and endpoint. So even if the VPN endpoints which are lying between you and the destination can read the packets, but they cannot, even if the VPN endpoints which lie between you and the endpoint or the destination can get the packet encrypted, they can know where is it coming from and where is it going for. Now, if they want to have a super malicious intent and they are successful in kind of installing man-in-the-middle certificates in your system, then probably it would be hard for you to know if your destination is actually right or somebody is actually tampering or playing with your packets. So it can get a bit tricky, of course. But however, in a normal connection, when you are connected to your endpoint, which is, and the certificate is known to come from the right publisher, then in this case, end-to-end encryption plays a good role and can protect you for many, many reasons. That's a very good one. Moving on to the next question. VPN endpoints can be helpful as well, given that they are not malicious. But as we discussed, that VPN endpoints can also be honeypots. How can VPN endpoints be honeypots, and how can we get to know this?
That's again a very well question. So what is a honeypot? A honeypot is basically something that is not what it claims to be, right? So if you have, for instance, a web server that is not actually the web server that it claims to be, we say it's a honeypot. Why would we have servers like that in the internet? Well, different kinds of reasons. One of them, for instance, is that they need to capture some traffic for some sort of analysis or other things, and then they try to basically advertise as some sort of servers that they are not. And by doing that, they basically capture the traffic from your end and then do all sorts of things with it. So can VPNs be honeypots? Yes, of course, because as I said, they have access to your traffic. When you are making a connection, whatever destination you are trying to connect to, first goes through the VPN server. It means that all your traffic can be recorded by the VPN server. And if you basically extend this to tens of thousands of users, then you would see that they can have a massive traffic that they can do all sorts of stuff with it, right? Depending on their purpose. But to answer your question, yes, absolutely. The only thing that you would need for a honeypot is traffic. And by basically using a VPN connection, you'd redirect all your traffic to the VPN server. So they can do whatever they want with your traffic.
Very well. Now, the next thing I would like to ask you is how easy or difficult is for a person to create his own VPN, or should he create his own VPN?
That's a very good question. It's not actually that very hard. The only thing that you need to imagine that you want to have a VPN server in, for instance, Germany, country X, right? I'm not saying that you should have a VPN server in Germany. But the only thing that you would need to have is a server in that location. If you have a server there, then you can basically install a VPN server on that server, and then that VPN server can serve. It's as simple as that. The technical basically steps to do that probably are out of the scope of this talk, but it's as simple as that. So you only need a server.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a physical server. It could be a virtual server. And then you only need to install a VPN server. And if you install a VPN server, you can basically use it like any other VPN server that are there and sell you basically subscription. What I would say to your users is to basically use VPN servers with open eyes and basically know the things that we discussed, right? If you know that there has to be a privacy statement, then you probably take a look at the VPN provider website and see whether there is a privacy statement. At least you have some sort of comfort when using the VPN. If they are saying that they are not logging your traffic, not selling your traffic, because these things have legal implications, right? If they are saying they are not logging and they are not selling, but they are doing that, they can be sued, and this can have rather very harsh implications for them. Or other things are where are they located, right? If, for instance, they are, so we had instances that the VPN server would have said that they are located, for instance, in Germany while they were, for instance, in Russia or China. Okay, if this is the case, then you can see that there's already something wrong, right? And on top of all these, know what you're doing with your VPN connection, right? So if you know that the characteristics of your connection, as I said, except the content, is not hidden from your VPN server, probably you would rethink how you would use your VPN connection. And a short note is that in this current internet world, nothing can be hidden, right? So if you're having a malicious purpose, you have to probably rethink what you're trying to do.
Yep, that's a good statement to summarize our discussions. And thank you so much for your time, Sina. That was a great amount of good discussions and very informative as well. I hope our viewers also liked and enjoyed the show. So we'll see you soon in another round of Cybersecurity Weekly, in another round of episode with more information. Until then, goodbye and have a nice weekend.
My pleasure.